Ark Survival Evolved, developed by Studio Wildcard in 2015, is very well known for its creatures and emphasis on taming dinosaurs. But in today's video, I'm going to share with you the best Ark harvesters. And just before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe as it really helps the channel. And in at number 5 is the Pteranodon. Now this may be controversial to you, but I really think it does deserve to be on this list, as in the early game these things are great for doing metal runs. Yes, in the late game these aren't going to stack up to something like an Argy or a Quetzal, but in the early game these things are a great way of getting metal without getting yourself killed. Just remember, when you are actually leveling your Pteranodon to do metal runs, mainly level weight. Stamina doesn't matter as much, but you really are going to need to level a lot of weight and probably tame a high level Pteranodon to begin with, because if you don't, then you're just going to end up with no metal at the end of it, and you're just going to be wasting time doing so many trips for getting metal. But once you do have yourself a high level Pteranodon, they can even be great into the mid game as well for doing metal runs, and they are also quite great for doing cave runs as well, as it is a safe way of getting you across the map relatively easily. The only thing really is about the Pteranodon is its saddle can be a bit of a pain to get, because all that chitin or keratin is actually quite a grind if you're playing on official settings. But after that, you have a reasonably good harvester of meat as well if you did want to do that. This thing can actually kill quite a lot of things, and you probably shouldn't underestimate its melee damage. But I would mainly use it for doing metal runs in the early game, like I said, as it will just get you to the top of mountains quite easily, and you're not going to get yourself killed on everything that actually lies on the side of a mountain. I'm mainly looking at things like saber-tooths, carnos, rexes, and also Argies as well. So tame a Pteranodon. In at number 4 is the Carodontosaurus. Now, to be honest, it is probably pretty obvious why this thing is on the list. It is a great harvester of anything that you will get from killing creatures, as this thing is an absolute machine for that. And the reason why I would put it above where the Giga would be is because it actually does have a reasonable stamina stat and a reasonable amount of mobility. So this thing isn't an absolute pain to use. But once you do have one of these things tamed, you don't even really need a high level, as all of them are going to do insane damage to pretty much any creature. You have a beast where you can just plow through so many creatures with absolute ease, and you're going to be getting so much hide, so much meat, so much prime meat, and if you're killing sheep with this thing, you're going to be getting a lot of mutton as well. Also, on top of that, these things are just really fun creatures as well, and they actually make harvesting not really a chore anymore. It is definitely very fun to destroy absolutely everything in the area with one of these things. You feel like you have so much power, which in the early game of Ark you really don't have a lot of. So it is definitely worth getting one of these for harvesting, as you're actually going to be harvesting for longer than you normally would, because you wouldn't get bored, because these things are simply so fun to ride on. Also, on top of that, once you killed a couple of creatures, they do more damage than the Giga. In at number 3 is the Therii. Now, to be honest, this is probably the best herbivore for doing any kind of berry, fiber, wood or thatch harvesting, as this is great at harvesting them all. And if you wanted, you can even harvest a bit of meat and hide with this thing, as it is very capable of killing creatures, and unlike other herbivores, it is actually able to harvest dead creatures as well. But I would mainly use this thing for harvesting fiber, as I find that I run out of fiber a lot, and this is a lot better than something like a moss chops for harvesting fiber. A moss chops is a great solution in the early game, but when you're later on or in the mid game, a Therii is a great choice as well, as you're going to get yourself a lot of fiber in really not a lot of time with this thing. And also on top of that, it is great at gathering wood and thatch as well, which are definitely essential resources, and you're going to be running through a lot of those in your Ark journey. probably even hundreds of thousands of them if you do play for a couple hundred hours. But the theory still does actually have a major downside if you're going to put this thing into combat. The thing is with carnivores is you can just feed them meat and they heal very quickly. But with the theory, sadly you cannot do that, and you will need sweet vegetable cake if you want to heal it fast, and that is very expensive. In at number 2 is the RG. Now you probably know why this thing is on the list. This is an insane harvester of metal. Obviously it's not going to harvest metal by itself, but it's a great way of transporting you up to where you can harvest metal, and it also can carry a lot of metal back, as it does have weight reduction on things like metal, crystal and obsidian. And also on top of that, its saddle actually acts as a portable smithy, so you can even craft some additional metal weapons if the ones you're harvesting with break. And obviously you can use an Anki as well. As an RG you can pick up an Anki, and if you do have a tamed Anki and you get your RG to pick it up, when you hover it above metal nodes, it will actually harvest the metal nodes for you. And when I use this method, I actually end up harvesting for longer, as it is just really enjoyable for me to do this. And on top of that, it is very convenient as well. The Anki will keep harvesting metal until it has around 70% weight, and then after that you will have to do it manually. Also, if you did want to in a pinch, the RG is a reasonable harvester of meat as well, and when it does eat a dead body it will heal incredibly quickly, so it is actually a good aerial combat creature. And finally, in at number 1 is the Mantis. Now, out of pretty much every harvesting creature in Ark, this is the creature that I always come back to, as it is just simply so useful for so many things. The main ability you're going to be using with the Mantis when you're harvesting is the ability that it has, that it can basically wield any melee weapon. Swords, pickaxes, hatchets and pikes. Literally basically whatever you want to do any kind of harvesting. I'm showing you here the Mantis with swords, partly just because it looks good for the camera, but also just because it is a really great harvester of meat, as you can kill creatures very quickly with this. Also, on top of that, on Raasclark, I do tend to harvest quite a lot of mutton using swords and a Mantis, as it is a great quick way of getting mutton without having to take out the Carodontosaurus to really get the job done. But also on top of that, you can use picks if you wanted to do some metal harvesting, and you can use hatchets if you're going to want to harvest wood or thatch or any kind of those resources. But also on top of that, it is just really fun to use, like most other harvesters that I have put on this list, so it makes harvesting a really enjoyable thing, and it is just something that you will continuously do every single time you hop on Ark and look forward to. But the one main downside is it will absolutely tank the weapon's durability. But anyway, that is the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and also if you didn't agree with this top 5, comment your top 5 in the comments down below, as I'd be very happy to hear your thoughts. And I will see you all later. Bye.